Welcome, and thank you so much for joining our prep session for Conservation Lobby Day. This is one of our largest public-facing events of the year, tied with our General Assembly preview that happens towards the end of this year to help prepare us for next year's Conservation Lobby Day, which if you come to Conservation Lobby Day this year on the 31st and you love it, we definitely want to see you later this year at the preview. All right, well, just move on to introduction. So I'm Andreana Lin. I work for the Virginia Conservation Network, managing VCN's flagship events. You get a lot of emails from me, and if you haven't yet already, expect to receive a lot more in the next week or two. Passing it on to Emily.
Yeah, hello everyone. My name's Emily. My pronouns are she, her. I am the regional field director for Climate Action Virginia. We're a branch, the grassroots organizing branch of Virginia League of Conservation Voters, if you're familiar with them. And yeah, just here to support VCN and get everyone up to speed on how lobbying works for Lobbying Day. If you're new, if you've done it before, we're just going to go over some basic like do's and don'ts, layout of the day, all of that kind of stuff. So thank you all for joining us, and I think we can probably move on to the next slide. Great. So today we're just going to go over, like I said, some logistics. We're going to talk about the roadmap, the day-to-day or the day of schedule, so where you're going to need to be at what time. We're going to talk, like I said, about some tips and tricks on meeting your legislators, what to talk about, how to present yourself, all that kind of stuff. We're going to go over some roles and how typically the meetings get broken down structure-wise, and we're going to go over two different ways that you can kind of do that. We'll talk a little bit about decoding, bill coding, and just give you some like basic vocabulary. So if your legislator brings it up or if you see it in your notes, you'll understand what we're talking about. Then we'll do some resources so you can do some of your own research on what you want to talk about tomorrow. And then we'll have a little breakout room activity so you can practice a little bit beforehand how you're going to approach lobbying day next week.
Thank you so much for that intro, Emily. So, okay, I think the slide's updated now. So just what to expect in upcoming emails and Google Calendar invites. So upcoming for this week, you can expect to receive a district team intro email, one for your delegate meeting time and one for your senator meeting time. And we'll spend a little time talking about what the district teams are in a couple slides from now. So the first 2 points, a set of two, you'll get 2 emails. And then points 3 and 3 will be Google Calendar invites. You should receive 2 if you indicated that you would like VCN or CBF for Water Lobby Day, right, to schedule your meetings. If you indicated you'd like us to schedule your meetings, then you can expect to receive 2 invites for Conservation Lobby Day, one with your delegate and one with your senator meeting time. 4th and 5th, 2 more emails after that. However, the 4th one, it will say must read in the subject line. That is an email you must read, which will include not only all of the logistics, but policy videos and fact sheets, all the relevant links and resources. The 5th one's just like a final reminder and materials email, just in case you missed the 4th one. All right, so the day itself, 7:45 a.m. is when you can come and pick up your registration packet at St. Paul's Episcopal Church. That will be on 815 East Grace Street, 23219 zip code. And then at 8 a.m., we're going to kick off the morning with coffee and breakfast. There will also be legislators that come to speak. That'll be the morning program. We'll have a group photo around 8:30 after our legislators are done speaking. And then from 8:45 to 11:30, some meetings will go until 11:45, but generally 8:45 to 11:30, we will have our legislator and constituent meetings. And during this time frame, you'll be moving from our church venue to the General Assembly building. When you're not in the GA building, you can always come back to St. Paul's Episcopal Church throughout to strategize with your district team members. And then after that period, from 11:30 to 2 o'clock p.m., we'll be having lunch, served, as well as various programs options. So I recommend to look on the main Water and Conservation Lobby Day webpage to see what those options are. Oh, and also just to mention, if you have any questions at all throughout the presentation, you can type it into the chat and we will answer them in order in the Q&A. All right, so some tips and tricks on meeting your legislator. So what are district teams? Well, district teams are essentially a small group of anywhere from 1 to 10 other advocates from your district that have come from wherever in order to talk about environmental issues that are important to them. And when it's 1 to 10, these could be a one-on-one meeting with your legislator where it's only you and the legislator or their legislative staff, or it could be 2 other or like 9 other advocates and you're a group of 10. So it really varies. In these district teams, we recommend that you strategize 2 to 3 key bills that you can focus on in your meetings. You can give additional one-pagers to highlight those issues that are important to you as well. And make sure that you agree beforehand on what priorities to focus on. If you can, at least right before your meeting. So during your meetings, we recommend the dress code for the day to be professional attire. Everyone in the General Assembly building, you'll notice, for the most part, are wearing suits or fancy dresses. And since you'll be walking back and forth, we do recommend comfortable shoes. We also recommend to plan to leave the church 30 minutes before your scheduled meeting time, so you will have time to walk to the building, which is about around a 5-minute walk away, and then also we'll be able to wait early in front of the office. For the morning meetings, we will have some of our co-hosts actually lead a few of the teams to the building. So if you don't know where you're going, just look out for those announcements. All right, you may speak with your legislator, but you also may speak with their chief of staff or legislative aide. So don't be surprised or alarmed if the person you end up speaking with is not who you thought it would be. But it's all right because they will relay all the information you give them to the legislator. And it's also a good starting point if this is your first time too. The most important thing is to be flexible because these meetings are short. We say 15 minutes because that's typically the expectation. However, if a legislator just has to get up and go or something happens in the office, then sometimes we've been reported that they've been shut down as early as 5 minutes. So just make sure you're keeping your points concise. And remember, you can always drop off materials at the front desk. All right, so when you're wrapping up your meeting, you want to make sure that you're asking your legislator what their current position is on a certain bill. You also want to thank them for their time and let them know that you will follow up with them with any requested information. Also make sure to get a photo to send in a thank you note afterwards. So you can share the photo on social media and tag them to your post. We do have a hashtag, which is hashtag Conservation Lobby Day, that you can use as well on your post. And I know it says or, but that's going to be an and, right? And send the photo to them in a personalized thank you note. This could be email or handwritten. All right, I'm going to pass it on to Emily.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about roles and the typical meeting structure that you'll see on Lobby Day. We break it down into kind of 2 different approaches, so you can decide with your district teams ahead of time on how you want to attack your lobby meeting. So if you could move on to the next slide. Great. Let me see. Sorry, I'm just admitting people in as well. So if you're choosing to take kind of the formal structure route, then you have a couple of different roles that you can decide ahead of time how you're going to fill. So traditionally, there's a leader who will introduce the group. They'll go around and let everyone, share their names, and maybe where they're coming from. And then they'll also introduce the group of 2 to 3 bills that the district group is going to be focusing on. Then you have kind of the most important part, the meat of the meeting, which is going to be the storytellers. So that's the individuals sharing their own personal individual story about why this piece of policy should be passed, how climate change or whatever your issue that you're focusing on has affected your life, and how the lawmaker can really change your future and the future of the individuals in the district. Then you have a note taker, so that's someone that will take notes in the group and that can follow back up with the lawmaker afterwards with specific points that you talked about, as well as the reaction to those points from the lawmaker as well. And they'll also gather all the group contact information ahead of time so you can share that with them. Then you have your closer. So that's someone, it can be the leader as well if you want to kind of double end that, but someone who kind of makes that final ask, pushes for the bills, and really holds the legislator accountable. And says thank you for the meeting time and work that the legislator might have done before. And then a really important role, and one that often is looked over, is the timekeeper slash photographer. So that's someone that makes sure that we're running on schedule, that we're not getting too bogged down in any one part of the structure of the meeting, and also gives warnings to people for falling way behind because these meetings are so succinct. And also an important note for the timekeeper photographer, make sure that you ask at the top of the meeting how much time that you're going to have, because sometimes it's supposed to be 15, but it doesn't always work out that way. And then if you choose to go kind of the more informal structure route, that might be if you have really differing policy goals within your district group, then you can have each person kind of fill all of those roles individually. So you'll go around, they'll talk about the bills that are really specifically important to them, share their own personal story, and then you kind of hop around to each person in the group. Pros to that is that everyone gets to talk about their own specific issue. The con is that it can take a little bit longer and you don't have such a strong ask as you have with the formal structure. So you can discuss how you want to work around that with your group ahead of time. It is important though that you do keep in mind the note taker and the timekeeper in either one of these layouts, because you do need someone that will be able to keep track of what's going on and someone that can keep you on track. So, everyone gets a chance to speak that wants to in your group. And I think that's good for the roles. Could you switch the slide? Great. So structure of the meeting, this is how I would break it down. Every group might look a little different, but generally speaking, like I said, you want the stories to be the meat of your meeting. So for the formal structure, you're looking at 1 to 3 minutes of a quick introduction. That's the part that can definitely get cut down more, time considered if you are running late to a meeting or the legislator is slow to let you in. So 1 to 3 minutes, 3 minutes max for sure. Storytellers, that's like I said, the meat. So 5 to 10 minutes for storytellers to share their individual experience. And then the closer can make the final ask, thank yous, all of that for 2 to 3 minutes. And then make sure to reserve that one last minute to get the photo. That's going to be such an important reference for the legislator after you meet with them when you send them the thank you note, to remind them of the conversation that you had. So you're not just like a number in the people that meet with them every day. And then for the informal structure, 10 to 15 minutes. Like I said, kind of similar to what we said before, just make sure you have a structure in place at some level. So, decide who's going to speak first, who's going to speak second. You want to cut out any intermediary time of trying to figure out who's supposed to be talking. But yeah, I think that is all for structure of the meeting. And we can move on to bill coding. Great. So just a quick run through, and this might be review for a lot of people on this call, but important so you know what we're talking about when you're doing your research and when you're talking about bills with your legislator. HB or SB, that's going to stand for House Bill or Senate Bill, where the bill originated in the General Assembly. HR, SR, that's House Resolution or Senate Resolution. So that's essentially an understanding that there will be work done on that issue. That's not necessarily a bill being passed. So, and the House or Senate is still the originating house or originating, house of the General Assembly. And then HJR, SJR, House Joint Resolution or Senate Joint Resolution, that just means that both the House and Senate agree on the resolution, and the originating body is going to be the first letter. £, in the code implies that it's a budget matter, and budget amendments are going to be numeric. So if you see that in your research, just know that's what that means. And then included in the resources at the end of this, and will be sent out to all of you, is just a really helpful tool talking about the vocabulary of the General Assembly, about committee measures that are taken, and can kind of help you break down maybe some of the jargon that exist in the legislative information system, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, you can take a look at that after the presentation today when you're doing your research. And I think we can move on to resources.
Fantastic. So there are 4 main resources that I'd like to share with everyone here today. The first one being the most important, this is the Water and Conservation Lobby Day main webpage. This is linked in various places on the registration page, in the Google Calendar invite, and it was sent over email too. So you should have it by now, but if you don't, it's right here. And this includes like travel information, parking, public transit, lodging if you'd like to stay overnight. We have a list of nearby hotels that you can contact. There's also a map that's linked, as well the schedule of the day, the program options, and all the resources that you will use, like the one-pagers, the policy videos, all of that will be on this webpage. So I stress the importance of this webpage. The second one is a General Assembly advocacy guide. This is especially prevalent for those who are newer to the conservation advocacy scene, or just General Assembly in general. This includes all of our upcoming actions and asks that are happening within our network and amongst our partners. It also includes a common list of FAQs, the like really basic questions that you may be too afraid to ask out loud, like where is the General Assembly building, or if you have really important questions like special accommodations. And then the third is our bill tracker. VCN has a bill tracker with a list of all the bills, conservation-related bills that were approved in our network, either to support or oppose. And each of those bills, we update the status of each week, and they have accompanying one-pagers. If you were to press support or oppose on the bill tracker, it will take you to a one-pager explaining the background on those specific bills and why it's good to support or oppose them. And then the fourth one is the General Assembly frequently used terms that Emily talked about earlier. It explains a lot of like the committee action language. It's just overall very helpful resource and tool. All right, so going to the Q&A part of the day, we have some questions in the chat, which is fantastic. Someone asked, how long a walk is it to the legislator, the General Assembly building? So that it's about a 5-minute walk. It is, right, Emily, you were right about that. Those with the meeting times at 8:45 or potentially like 9 a.m. Will not be in the group photo in the morning, which is unfortunate, but we are having multiple photo opportunities throughout the day as well. So no worries there. And you can also take photos and then tag us on our social media account, and then we will also share it out. So, and then how soon will we know if we're flying solo or who is in our district teams? You will know by this Friday or early Saturday. You'll either get the district team emails first or the Google Calendar invites first. That's gonna vary. For some of you, you might receive an email from one of our co-hosts instead of me. That's introducing as like the district team. So if you get an email from what may seem like a random person, it's probably not. And if you have any confusion, you can always reach out to me. All right. And then next question, how many people are we expecting to come out to Conservation Lobby Day? So we currently have 240 registrations for Conservation Lobby Day, which is huge because last year we only had around 180. So we are growing. This is fantastic. If we include our registrations from Water Lobby Day, we hit the 300 mark. So this is great, right? We want our legislators to really care about this, and you're all putting in the wonderful effort to do so. Right? In terms of, so someone said, one of my friends who signed up for Lobby Day could not attend today. Is there a link where she could watch this? We will be recording the session, as you can see, and it will be posted up this week on the Water and Conservation Lobby Day main webpage. So now I see it there. All right, and then Emily, if you could answer this one, is the new General Assembly building in the same place as the Pocahontas building?
Yeah, I think Chesapeake Climate Action Network might have already answered it, but no, we actually have a new General Assembly building. It's beautiful, it's big, it's on the top corner of the Capitol grounds, like they said, on Broad Street. So traditionally we've met for Lobby Day at the Bell Tower before. It's really close to that. You just like walk up the street a little bit. And like Andreana said earlier, when you're meeting with your district groups, you're going to have some co-hosts that will be helping you find the offices and the building. So you don't have to worry too much about that.
Great, and then will we know the budget of each bill?
I would say so that I don't think that we have all that information. There's, I think, hundreds of bills at this point that we're keeping watch of. So if you have any specific questions about a bill that you're interested in supporting and talking to your legislator about, I think you could probably reach out to VCN or to any of the partner organizations that can hopefully give you a little bit more of a background on that. But I don't know if we have all of that. Andreana, you might be able to answer that better, but I don't know if we have all that information readily available right now.
Nope, that's exactly what I will echo with your answer, Emily. Thank you for that. How do you have your delegate and senator meetings scheduled for you? When you registered, there was a question at the end that says, do you want VCN or CBF to schedule your meetings based on which lobby day you are planning on attending? If you answered yes, then your meeting will be scheduled. If you answered no, then your meeting will not be scheduled. If you are uncertain, if you put yes or no, you can reach out as well, and I can let you know. Good. Now, see. If there are several people for a particular legislator, how is it decided whether someone in the group will schedule the meeting with the legislator or let VCN do the scheduling, and B, what bills to emphasize? So, okay, if I'm understanding the first part of this question right, decide whether someone in the group will schedule. So the way we're doing this, there won't be any confusion on who is scheduling the meeting because I or one of our co-hosts will be scheduling all the meetings for those who say yes. So if you said you would like us to schedule your meeting, you don't have to worry about if you're like how your meeting will be scheduled or anything like that. We'll schedule it for you.
I
And
think I
then,
can take the second part
oh,
of the question for what bills to emphasize. Co-hosts that will be like kind of the leaders of your group are going to be reaching out to you before the day of the event. And that's how you'll know how many people will be in your group ahead of time. And I think that if within a district group, everyone can agree on 2 or 3 bills, then you'll kind of go the more formal route like we had talked about earlier. But if there's a really broad range of the bills that people want to focus on, then you'll probably go the more informal route and people will each kind of talk about what bill they're most interested in. But there will be an understanding of who is in your group ahead of time and you can have some coordination at that point. Plus, we have the whole opening part of the day where you can link up with people in your group and chat before you actually go to your legislators' offices. I think that kind of covers that.
yeah, and adding on to that, not everyone will have a co-host reach out to them.
Okay.
Most people will have me reaching out, but some people will have a co-host reaching out. The biggest important thing is when you're all connected to communicate with each other and see what bills to emphasize. Because some people are there to talk about data centers, some people are there to talk about energy issues that are separate from data centers or about wildlife corridors. You might be in a meeting, and the chances are very high that you'll be in a meeting with people that are interested in very different bills, which is the beauty of this. So there's no specific answer to that one. All right. And then the next question is, what advice do you have when we meet with legislators who are simply almost never on any committees where key bills we care about are heard? I get that they'll still have a vote when it comes to the full House or Senate, but it's so hard to find things in common or to thank them for when some legislators are just not environmental in focus at all. Emily, would you like to start with this?
Yeah, sure, I definitely can. I think primary thing that you can do is yeah, focus on the fact that they will have some type of vote in further down the line in the full House vote. You can speak to them about like garnering more interest for environmental issues, bring to them a passion project and say, this is something that I'd love to see for our community. I think just trying, like I said before, the meat of these meetings is sharing your personal experience. So if you have a legislator that's not really interested in environmental issues, then try and find a way to make them interested in environmental issues. That's like a place that you can break ground. But that's just how I would come at it from a field organizer stance. So Andreana, if you have further to extrapolate on that, feel free.
I mean, my main thing, just as a polite thing, to just thank you for their time. And if anything else, like you could just thank them for giving you their time. But that's all I have to say about that, Emily. You answered that wonderfully. Oh, and I do appreciate someone put the address for the entrance for the new General Assembly building. I'll just say that out loud for the recording of people watching online. That the public entrance for the General Assembly building is on Broad Street. That's 923 East West, I think it's EW Broad Street. The zip code again is 23219. I am not located in Richmond. That's why zip code is very important to me. But this is all in Richmond for those not in Richmond. All right. And this is a good question. How will co-hosts be designated? Well, this is the first time we're really trying to have co-hosts help us in this certain way with helping schedule meetings or helping with the district teams. So it's not really like, it's just our co-host chose which district teams or which legislators they would like to lead. So it's just based on where our co-hosts are located and what their interests are. So it's kind of like a bag in the hat. You don't really know, you don't really know if you are designated like a co-host or not. Right. Let's see. Okay. Are token gifts acceptable? Like cookies from a local district bakery? Emily, if you could answer this.
I honestly am not sure. I've never done that before, but I think that's a creative idea. Um, yeah, Andriana, you might be able to answer that better than I.
Yeah, we have nothing against that. We have had I think last year there's a group, I can't remember who, but there's a group every year. They make paper flowers or like paper bouquet, like flower bouquets, and they give it to every single legislator. So there's nothing against that. That's actually a very kind gesture.
I
Uh,
think, Andriana, we might want to circle back. There was some bills seem to be missing from the bill
oh
tracker.
yes.
Why is that? And CCAN did a great job of answering that, I think. Um, yeah, if the whole VCN coalition hasn't taken a vote on that, then they might not be there. But if you are missing any information on a bill that you're specifically interested in, you can always look on LIS, which is in the resources slide that Andriana is going to share with y'all. And you can find out more detailed information about the bill, about possible financial repercussions. Thank you, Rose, for that information as well. All of that. So LIS is a good source to kind of do further research on that for.
Okay, yes, and I'll just echo that. I'm not huge on the bill tracker process because that's not really my job on the team, but definitely if you have specific questions about that, you can send me an email and I'll connect you with the right person to get that answer for you. So good there. Now let me see. Someone asked, how long does it take to go through security? Emily, do you have an idea on that?
Yeah, it can take as little as 1 minute if there's no line, and it can take, I've seen it take 25 to 30 minutes if there is a huge line. That's like really on a very busy day. I would say like 10 minutes is the average when they're first opening up the doors early in the morning. So if you're in one of the earlier groups, I would definitely try and get there earlier. Leaving by 8:30, I think is a great idea. Because the elevators, like I said, get really busy. But yeah, about 10 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes is what I'd expect probably. But we'll be a lot of people too. So, maybe when you're waiting in line, make sure that you're talking to the people around you. And if there's someone who has an earlier meeting than you, then make sure to let them get ahead of you.
Great. And then I'd like to say, because there was a really good comment in the chat that was talking about bringing minimal stuff or things as you'll go through security. I do want to note that we recommend taking all of your stuff with you from the church, whatever you bring to the event venue in the morning, take it with you when you go to your meetings and bring it back, right? But we do not recommend leaving your things behind in the venue. Otherwise it might be lost or stolen. So that sounds good. And let's see if there's any other questions. Going through. Is there a good place to hang out in the General Assembly building in between meetings where others from VCN may be? Emily, do you have initial response to this one?
Yes, I think the new G. I think the initial response would be you can go to the church always. It's only a 5-minute walk from there. So if you have a little bit of time between, and also the security line dies down a lot after the initial, people coming into the building at 8:45, 9-ish. So feel free to go back to the church. There's also benches, places to sit. So if you have like a 30-minute break between meetings, then you can always stay in the building as well. And there is a cafe within the building too on the ground floor that you can sit and take a moment too.
That's great. Also, I will say, whoever is CCAN in this chat, you should reach out to us ahead of time so we can have you on future Q&As. Thank you for helping out. All right. Now, is there parking at the church? So on the main Water and Conservation Lobby Day webpage, multiple parking options are listed. There is a parking deck right underneath the church, actually. It's a $30 flat rate for all day. If you look online, it may say something about an early bird rate, but during the General Assembly session, they actually cut that. So it's a solid $30. There is actually a new option for parking that's specifically for people who are going to the Capitol area or the General Assembly building, and I think it's on 9th and Franklin Street. That's also linked on the webpage. That one I think is a $20 flat rate for all day. So it is a little cheaper, and it's like a 5-minute walk as well. And there's a couple other options too that are nearby. If
Yeah,
you would like
also,
to, oh yeah, go ahead, Emily.
sorry, another option, you all are probably already aware of this, but in Richmond, the public transportation system is free right now. So if you wanted to park in a less busy area of town and take the bus, there's some direct transit lines that will take you right to the area that we're going to be focused in. So definitely a good option for that as well.
Yeah, that's a wonderful shout out to the GRTC is what it's called if you want to Google that. GRTC. Right. And if you'd like to download the slides, so I can include it to the email upcoming, but they will be also uploaded onto the main webpage. So when the video is up on the main webpage, underneath there'll be a button that says, download the slides or anything like that. All right.
I think there's one. Are there any meetings one can attempt to join, observe without having priorly registered for them? So you can, like, if there are smaller groups and you're interested, I would approach maybe the group themselves and ask if you could tag along if that's something you're interested in doing. Though the list of people that are going to be going to those meetings have already been sent to the legislators as well. So I would just be mindful of the time of the people that are meeting with their with their legislator. Those are all constituents in their area or should be. But there might be some opportunity. Andriana, you might be able to answer that better too.
Uh, I would say if it's specifically we're talking about conservation lobby day meetings, I guess this is like the first time I've ever been asked this, so I'm trying to think it out. I mean, I don't know if that's a no, but the biggest thing is if you were to do that specifically for conservation lobby day meetings that we're scheduling, to not say really anything anyway to let the constituents speak in that group. But like Emily was saying, there are a wide variety of meetings that happen that day. So even the ones outside of conservation lobby day, right, you can get the schedule and then you can pop in on any of those.
Yeah. And for some of the legislators that are from farther afield, it's harder to have people come into Richmond to speak on those days. So I think during the opening session, talking to different groups and seeing, if they have one or two people only in the group, then we could probably find a way for you to sit in. Just be flexible, talk to the people in the group and make sure you're not stepping on the constituents' toes, I think is the main thing there.
And then
For
yeah.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Sorry, were you gonna say anything about that?
No, I was gonna go on to the next question.
Oh, yeah. So I was just gonna say, and perfect because we're going to move on to our activity soon. But definitely starting with this last question, is there a good map of the General Assembly building available so I can quickly find my legislator?
I think a great resource for this, if you haven't already downloaded this, for the VPAP General Assembly app has, I'm not sure if it has a map, but it has a list of all the different rooms, information on your legislators, bills being passed. It's like such a good one-stop shop, and I would definitely recommend downloading it ahead of time. And I'm pretty sure there are maps on there, but I'd have to double check. That is a good option though.
Yeah, I can actually look into that separately after this. That might be a note for myself. If you would like to send me an email as a reminder, that would be fantastic, but you do not have to do that. And then maybe include that in future emails. Oh, it looks like the CCAN person down put the links there. Thank you so much, mystery CCAN employee. Okay, it is in the chat now. And I'll have that separate too. All right, we'll move on to the next part. If you have more questions, we may have some additional time after the activity as well to answer it. But first we'll move on to the activity. Emily, if you want to take it away.
Sure, I think the screen might be zoomed in.
I don't know how to
Sorry,
fix
it's
that.
like, are y'all seeing it as a zoomed in screen too, or is it just me? If so, I can just move on.
I mean,
It's just like a small square of the actual screen itself. Yeah, maybe try resharing.
there we go.
Okay. It's still a little bit of a weird small screen, but we can also just continue on with it. Because there's not a ton of information. Oh, you can see it all? Okay, maybe it's just something on my format of my computer. So never mind. Never mind about that. Okay. So we're gonna go into a little kind of role-playing activity to get a little bit of practice. Obviously, these aren't going to be your district group specifically, so it's not going to be exactly how it is on lobby day, but it'll give you an idea of like prepping, planning for how that meeting might go, and then have a little chance to practice those roles. You can obviously choose a role that you might want to take on lobby day itself. So if you have a really compelling story or you're really good at keeping time, then you can kind of try your hand at that. So we're gonna go into breakout rooms of around 5 to 7 people, 5 to 6 people. We're gonna have 15 minutes, so 5 minutes to plan out, and then we're gonna take kind of the worst case scenario, which is that your meeting time got cut down to 10 minutes. Then you can practice role playing a little bit, and then we'll meet back up and do a quick debrief on how that went, what worked, what didn't, all of that. So
What do you recommend as far as following up after we complete our meetings, weeks and months down the road?
yeah, I think following up on whatever bills specifically that you were interested in is going to be important. So keeping track of what subcommittees, committees, and then the big votes in the different bodies are going to be. So making sure that you're reaching out to them when it hits each level of that organization. Keeping up, definitely thank yous is really important. I don't think we highlight that enough sometimes, but lawmakers like to hear that they did a good job, and they like to hear from constituents that they're happy about how votes went or how bills progressed. So definitely just sending thank yous, not just for their time, but thank yous if things get passed is something that's really important, and it'll help you kind of like start building a relationship with your lawmaker on a more personal level, and their staff, obviously. So I would say follow up as the bills reach their subcommittees, committees, and general votes, and then follow up later on in the year if you want to just continue, say, remember when we met at this lobby day meeting, send the photo. Like I said, that'll help jog their memory about you, and it'll just help you have a more back and forth relationship with your legislator, which is always going to be good when you're trying to advocate for policies that you care about.
Yeah, and adding on to that, so one misconception I think that some people have is like this time, because it's the General Assembly session, meetings are very short, but throughout the rest of the year, we encourage you to continue meeting with your legislator. The meetings become much longer. Emily, typically, how long are the meetings outside of session? Do you
They
know?
can be, well, they can be however long that you want them to be, really. And it also depends, obviously, on your legislator's schedule. Senators are a little bit harder to nail down for longer periods of time, and then delegates are a little bit easier. But, you can go out and have like a coffee meeting with them. You can meet them in their offices. It really depends on how much you want to reach out to them and how close you want those relationships to be, and vice versa, obviously. But yeah, I know some legislators that meet regularly with their constituents on a pretty personal basis. So
Right. And
I think
then,
Gary, oh,
yeah,
sorry.
no
Gary, you have a
problem.
question?
Yes, Andreana or Emily, so we should begin to get our emails with our meeting times by the end of the week. If we haven't gotten it by, say, Friday, we should let one of you know. Is that what the guidance?
Yes, if you have not received it by Friday, especially like even Friday morning, you can send me an email at ANDREANA. So that's my first name, Andriana, at vcnva.org.
Great, thank you.
No problem.
Any other questions from the group? Great.
No.
Well, we are really excited for Lobby Day. We'll see you all there. And if you have more questions, find Andriana or me in the crowd on Lobby Day, and we'll be happy to answer them. You also have tons of organizers and staff from different organizations that are part of the VCN network there that day and can help you answer more policy specific questions. Check out the resources that we've compiled. And really, I think like my main note and main point of reference for this is make sure you're talking about something that you feel passionate about. What the legislators want from you are sound bites for them to talk about these bills that actually represent their constituency. So if you have a real like story that you think could hit a note and could really represent the piece of policy that you care about, make sure you share it with them. Bring pictures, bring, like tokens, like we said, as long as they're under that threshold, but like anything to make yourself a real person, a real constituent. I think the more that you can do that, the more sway that your words will have with your legislator, hopefully. But yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah, and also, I'm just going to reiterate to everyone here, come pick up your registration packet first thing in the morning. They'll have all the printed out one-pagers, a map, the schedule for the day, and a name tag. We also will have buttons at the front, hopefully, fingers crossed. And I'll be so excited to say good morning to all of you on that very busy morning.
Great. If you all have any other like more specific personal questions, me and Andreana will be around for the next like 10 minutes in the Zoom room. So stick on if you want to talk about something more specifically, but thank you guys so much for joining us, and we'll look forward to seeing you next Tuesday and Wednesday.